Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. Thanks for being here today. We have a guest that is a medical doctor who focuses on integrative wellness and lifestyle medicine. Dr. Manny has a private practice where she helps her clients with their health and has a focus on lifestyle measures to extend lifespan. Our conversation centered around longevity and the pillars to extend our health span and quality of life. She shared 4 pillars of health and the research behind why each is vital to our health. These pillars include exercise, nutrition, and she talks specifically about micronutrients, which I loved because I feel like people don't really talk about that as much, and sleep. I love all the practical tips that she included. Her book is coming out in just a few months. It's called Live More, Age Less, and I will make sure to share when this book is launched. She had so much wonderful information that I can't wait for you guys to hear. And you can follow her by going to my show notes, and I will have everything linked there, and I hope you love this episode. I want to share another review today, and just side note, thank you so much for taking the time to leave a review. It makes a big difference for the show. This review was specifically reviewing the episode with Amy Wilson. It was number 58, and it was such a great episode. So make sure you go back and listen to that if you haven't heard it yet. But the review goes, as a 50-plus woman, this episode really hit home and made sense. Practical tips on eating and exercise that will be easy to implement. Thank you so much. This is great feedback, and I'm really appreciative of when you hear something that you like on the show, that you let me know. You can do that by leaving a review. You can send me a message on Instagram. You can email me any way that is easy for you. I just love to hear your feedback, and I'd love to hear it if you have a topic that you want to hear more about. So keep me posted. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for taking the time to leave this review. And make sure you share this with a friend. I feel like that is another great way to, if you love something, share it with someone that you think would benefit from it as well. There's so many great episodes so far and so many great ones to come. So thank you so much and enjoy this episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our show, Learning to Glow podcast. We have Dr. Manny with us. Welcome to Learning to Glow podcast.
I'm glad to be here, Jess. I can't wait to discussion.
I'm very excited to have you here, and we have so many exciting things to talk about, and really we're going to focus on longevity and aging and the process. And before we get into all of these interesting topics, I'd love if you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we can go from there.
Sure, absolutely. So, my name is Dr. Mani. I'm an integrative health and wellness practitioner. So, I help my clients to biooptimize their health and totally reset their health in order for them to live to their full potential. I help them for their gut health, immune health, skin health, hormonal health, and it's a virtual practice where I do the concierge practice with my clients. I am conventionally trained as an MD, conventional medicine practitioner, and then I got my master's in public health in clinical research and epidemiology because I always wanted to study the progression of the disease and the prevention of the disease. The conventional medicine is all about the bandage approach. It's basically seeing the symptoms and trying to suppress the symptoms with the help of pharmaceuticals. But that's not how my approach was. I had always wanted the root cause eradication. That's why prevention was my main focus. So I went and did my master's in epidemiology and clinical research. On a personal note, besides even my academics and my career and my education, I suffer from Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune condition. And we all know it's an untreatable condition. But I knew if I approach from holistic point of view, I could definitely bring myself to remission. Remission means when you're off the symptoms for longer duration. And for almost half a decade or more than half a decade, I have been in remission. I don't have any symptoms. And before myself jumping in and trying to take a control, I know I had seen many specialists, endocrinologists, my internal medicine physician, holistic doctors, functional medicine practitioners, and nothing. I had never seen any improvement. My antibodies, my anti-TPO antibodies and anti-thyroglobulin antibodies were just insanely high. They were off the chart. So I knew I had to just do something myself, So I tried to take care of my nutrition. I tried to follow the clean eating and also all the clean environment around me. I did correct some of my lifestyle factors and all those toxins all around me. And when I fixed those, I could take better control of my health. I could bring this issue and I could fix this problem. Beside my problem, I had also seen my father suffering from chronic illness, from diabetes, and it was such a struggle and it was painful for me to see him going through that condition. But it was just such a downhill. It's a chronic metabolic disease, right? So I could see all those complications, and then finally he succumbed to chronic renal failure and septicemia. I knew at this point that, these chronic metabolic problems and all these inflammation related problems, they just cause so much pain in life. But if we have right knowledge, if we have right education, if we have right tools and interventions, if we know them, we can take care of those right in time and we can control our problems right in time. So at the most, if we cannot reverse, but at least we can live with the remission and we can live with subtle symptoms kind of stage, and in some cases we can even reverse a disease. So going through my personal story, I knew that I had my MD, I did my master's, and I now wanted to study this progression and prevention of the disease from clinical and very practical aspect. And then I spent almost a decade doing the clinical research and all these epidemiological studies where I studied the disease in detail. And I studied and I noticed that, when there's a when there's an origin of disease, sometimes the disease progress in such a downhill manner that it's hard to control the disease. But with the help of some interventions, we can really control the disease and even reverse the disease. And when I knew this, I thought I would just add some holistic education to my already existing academics. And then I invested my time. I did study holistic nutrition and functional medicine from Cornell University and also did some holistic and integrative nutrition from IIN, New York. And when had all the combination and amalgamation of all this knowledge and the experience, then I launched my own practice, which is a virtual practice. It's a concierge practice of integrative health and wellness where I help my clients to reset their health.
That is incredible. I love your story. And I hear this a lot on my podcast too, of people who have had personal issues of their health. And that has been the jumping off point to learn they're more alternative than our mainstream medicine. And that's what's really helped them solve so many issues and live a better quality of life. So thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. And so when you talk about, we were talking about the quality of life and making sure that we are aging in the way that is best for us so that our quality of life is good. I'd love to take a step back on that and talk about what is the aging process in the first place. And then we can kind of talk about what are ways that we can make sure that we are doing the right things for ourselves and are, like you mentioned, the nutrition and the exercise so that we are living the life that feels best in our bodies.
Very good question. So, aging, I'll just like to define. It's a very complex biological process. But in a simple definition, aging is actually gradual, slow wear and tear of every single cell, every single tissue, organ, and system of your body. And the physical manifestation of that, how you see it, is by looking at the wrinkled skin, graying of hair, decreased immunity, frailty, forgetfulness, loss of muscle mass, loss of bone density, and your flexibility issues, mobility issues, your joints, all those problems you see as a physical manifestation. But internally, every cell of your body is aging. And it's because throughout the life, throughout our living, our cells are constantly multiplying. Our DNA, our genetic code, everything is multiplying constantly. And with time, it's like a machine. With time, there's a slow wear and tear of that whole system biologically, and that causes aging, which is a very, very internally embedded process in our cells, in our genetics. But on top of that, if we are not taking care of our lifestyle, if we're not taking care of our sleep, exercise, our food, nutrition, supplements, micronutrients, our macronutrients, if we don't take care of that, we are basically accelerating the pace of aging. So I know 20% is basically all something because aging is inevitable. We all have to age and we all have to terminate and die, but it's all 20% genetically controlled. 80% is all lifestyle. 80% is still in our control, how we deal with our life, how we take care of our life. So aging, just like I said, is inevitable, but we can still improve our lifespan and health span, the amount of years that we live on this earth. We can improve that and have a better quality of life by taking care of those factors which are in our control and which are like exercise, sleep, food, supplementation, all those strategies and interventions like taking care of your hormones, photomodulation, heat and cold therapy, stem cell therapy, gene therapy, all those are advances in medicine that you can incorporate through the help of a specialist and expert and actually better your health span and lifespan altogether and have a better quality of life and hence basically control the aging process. And we'll talk about all those in details.
Yeah, I think that's so important to note what you said earlier about there's that 20% genetic component. So, just because something happened in our family and our parents have something that is going on with them, that doesn't mean that we necessarily have to have that same diagnosis
Definitely.
or disease. We have so much, it shows us that we have so much control over what happens.
Definitely. Yes.
So I'd love to start talking some of the things that you mentioned just previously and some of these pillars that help us. We want to make sure that we're living, yes, we want to live a long time, but those years are of quality and that we can move around and that we're not sick. I'd love to start with some of your favorite maybe pillars and tips for this prevention and also just making sure that we are having that quality that everybody wants. What would you like to start with?
Absolutely. I love to start with exercise because I
Okay.
think exercise is the ultimate pillar of your youth. I mean, it's the ultimate elixir of youth. There's no other medicine, there is no other supplementation that can do as great as exercise do for your body and for your health. You know, if you see human evolution, we our ancestors, maybe 100, 200 years ago, people were supposed to be moving all the time. They were supposed to be, they used to walk. They used to basically walk all the day. And the hunter and gatherers, they used to look for their food, hunt, and gather the food for eating one time in a day, right? But the way we've been living our life, the trend now is basically sitting inside in front of computers, in front of our gadgets, and working inside all the time. So we are trying to basically go the other route, which is just not how we were basically meant to be. The human evolution was meant to be. So that's the big change, and that's why exercise. So our bodies are basically made to be exercising all the time, made to be exercising at least 45 minutes to 1 hour every day, right? So exercise, according to National Health and Aging Institute, there's a recent study which has been performed on almost 2,800 subjects. Exercise reduces your all cause mortality by literally 20 to 30%, which is a huge number. If your all cause mortality is reduced by 20 to 30% by just doing something which is good for you, why not do it? And it's not only good for your immune system, it is good for your skin health, it's good for improving your cognition, it's good for your brain health, it's good for your cardiovascular health, it's good to improve your metabolic functioning. It's just good for every single system in your body. you know the I tell my clients, some of them they are like, we don't like to exercise. Period. What do we do? Is there any other alternative? But there's no other alternative to.
Mhm.
But it's just that we need to play with our mindset to actually convince ourselves that move your body. If you're not exercising, that's fine. Just be mobile. Don't be just sitting on the couch all day. Move your body. Start with walking. If you have started walking and you like it, start to jog and then run. And then once you have started run and you've started loving exercise, running, then see what goals you have in your life. Whether you want a betterment in your cardiovascular health, then do more aerobics. Do something for your endurance and strength. If you want to take care of your muscle health, go for resistance training or weight exercise. And so depending, if you want to improve your brain health, go for hit, the high intensity exercises. So depending on your goal, just follow those kind of steps. And sometimes some people, I have like business executives who come and tell me that I don't have time to basically buy a gym membership and going to gym. I don't have that much time, leisure time, to go every 1 hour. I mean, 1 hour every day in a so their life is complicated and it's busy. But there's been a recent study and they've actually made a protocol which is called WILPA. That means VILPA, vigorous intensity lifestyle physical activity. That's the full form of that abbreviation. And that suggests doing just 1 to 3 minutes of vigorous intensity exercise 3 times in a day from your office, from your home, where you're doing high intensity exercise 1 to 3 minutes 3 times in a day. It helps to increase your brain boost. It has a brain boosting power. It helps to reduce the cancer related risk. It helps to reduce 30 to 40%, up to 30 to 40% all cause mortality. So see, I mean, how insanely massive message is that? It's a beautiful clinical data that has been published. And so that's why this protocol of VILPA has been created, that people who are extremely busy, no need to buy the gym membership, but just get yourself involved in 1 to 3 minutes of very high intensity exercise just 3 times in a day in your own home, in your office. So you can do, when I say 1 to 3 minutes high intensity, some people ask me, what do you mean by that? What's the scale of the high intensity? So the level is bringing your maximum heart rate to 80%. Your maximum heart rate, for people who do not know, is how you calculate that. For Jess, for example, I'll take your example. What's your age? I shouldn't be asking,
You
but
can ask. I'm 46.
so 46. So you subtract 46 out of 220, so which is almost like 170 something. So 170 is your maximum heart rate. That means whenever you're doing the high intensity exercise, just your max heart rate should be around 170, not more than that. So 80% of that means somewhere close to 150. If you are bringing your heart rate to 80% of 170, that's what is called willpower. Just 3 minutes, which is not too much. So these are some of the different protocols that have been created for every single type of person to suit with every single kind of lifestyle that people have. So there is no saying no to exercise. It's always you can work around it. And then when you are really good at it, make sure, I mean, in books, how we write in books, the proper set protocol by minutes is like, if you're doing moderate intensity exercise, do around 150 to around 300 minutes. But if you are doing very intense exercise, just do it around 75 to 150 minutes in a week, which
Hmm.
is almost working 5 times in a week, for 45 minutes, which is not tough. I mean, it feels like a chore, but it's just a part of your lifestyle. If you are getting some elixir like this, spending 45 minutes to betterment of your life, is there's no problem. Exercise, what really happens when you're exercising. When you exercise, you might have heard, and people who are our listener, they might have heard that we produce lactic acid in our muscle. But this lactic acid is actually very, very good, very, very beneficial. This lactic acid, when your gut microbiome, they feed on this lactic acid, they produce a short chain fatty acid called propionic acid. And that propionic acid is a boost for the strength, for endurance, for your overall, you feel strong, you feel elevated. So that's why you've seen people who are active and who are athletes, they have so much strength as compared to their sedentary counterparts. Similarly, this lactic acid, eh, when brain take this lactic acid as a fuel, these brain cells or neurons, they produce a lot of BDNF. BDNF is brain derived neurotrophic factors, which are actually the neurotransmitters like serotonin. You all know that we all know serotonin is a feel good hormone which is produced from our brain. That's why you must have seen people who exercise, who are very active, and you're working out, they just feel happy right after doing their workout session. It's because your serotonins are actually produced from your brain, and these serotonins are produced as a result of using the lactic acid as a fuel. And then also this lactic acid, when you have so much lactic acid in the muscle, you are basically saving the glucose as a fuel, right? Because we all know glucose is a fuel for every cell to be functioning. So now we are saving the glucose as a fuel, and that glucose can be used to produce the glutathione. And that glutathione is, is a massive antioxidant for the
Mm-hmm.
human body. So when we are exercising, it is giving us all those benefits of antioxidant. It's basically anti-inflammatory for us. It is This exercise is using all that glucose, so basically you're clearing off the glucose from your system, from your blood, so you don't suffer from diabetes, and also you're using the fat cells. So basically exercise helps to clear off the glucose, exercise helps to clear off the fatty cells, the fatty acids, and that's how you keep your body fit, by not having the glucose to be present in your blood all the time. That extra glucose, that extra spikes of glucose, which is highly inflammatory, and that when you clear off the fats, basically, your triglyceride levels are normal, your cholesterol, your whole lipid profile looks very normal, and you don't get the accumulation of all those fat cells in your viscera. So your visceral fat mass index, if you ever see through the DEXA scan, it comes out perfect, for people who are exercising regularly. So I mean, in numerous benefit. I if I want to talk about exercise all the time, I can literally talk about it number of hours. It's that beneficial for us. It's just
I
the ultimate elixir.
I love that. It's so interesting how so many different like everything can be improved by exercise, and I love your tips for it too, because it's like you don't have to start from zero to, sitting on the couch to running a marathon. Just get out and walk and find little ways, and then that study where you can literally 3 minutes 3 times a day. That's such a little amount of time, and it's good for us. It's an excuse to get up off of our desk and take that break, because I know a lot of people have a hard time with that. We recently bought one of those walking pads so that you can work and walk at the same time. It's so great because you're standing, you're moving, and you're getting work done. I actually find that my focus is so much greater when I am also walking and working, because I can't be distracted. Like I have to, if I'm too distracted, I'll fall. And
Yeah.
so I could only do work and walk at the same time. But I think it's so important. And if you're not currently exercising, or if it's a chore for you, finding something that, is not too overwhelming to start, and then just keep trying things, and find something that you like, because I feel like you'll stick with it more if you do that.
Right. I mean, something that interests you, carve your way out of that. And especially when you age, especially with aging, right after the age of 40, every decade you lose around 5 to 8% of muscle mass. And that's an insane, huge number. That's a huge loss for your muscle every decade. So if you are not counteracting by taking appropriate amount of proteins and also combining with some resistance training, you're going to lose all the muscle. And especially we know that, especially in women, which who are around perimenopause or menopause. I mean, your muscle loss and your bone loss, that can aggravate so much because of all that hormonal shift. So it's better that you're exercising regularly as a routine workout. It's just good for you, or your overall health span and lifespan is much better, with better quality of life, by doing this, by actually correcting this particular pillar of your lifestyle.
Oh, I love it. So, since you mentioned protein, I thought maybe we should talk about the next step, which would be nutrition. I mean, I know this we could also speak for hours on this, but give us some advice in when it comes to nutrition as we're aging.
With aging, especially, we got to be very, very careful about our macronutrients, and definitely micronutrients, which plays huge role, and we'll talk about that later. But first, touching macronutrients, because among macronutrients, protein plays a huge part, especially with aging. I mean, as many as supplements, medicine you take, that's all is the correction, like the correction of your problems and fixing your problem. But food comes first. And food first theory, actually, just eat whole food, clean food, don't consume non-processed, don't consume the processed food, whole food, clean food, and perfect balance of your macronutrients and micronutrients. That's how you should be consuming. First of all, just think about, whole balanced food, and try to avoid the processed food as much as possible. Avoid the sugar, because sugar is the main culprit. Sugar is the main culprit in a way that it causes that advanced glycation of all the proteins. Sugar can actually cross, it can actually, what do I say? Sugar actually, basically, all the proteins around the cells, all the fatty acids, it actually cross relate with them, and it kind of just changes the structure of those proteins and fatty acids, and then it causes the glycation, which is one of the major culprit or major cause of aging, advanced glycation, and products which are insanely inflammatory, pro-inflammatory. So when it causes so much inflammation, and inflammation is the root cause of any chronic metabolic disease, all the disease, they start from inflammation. Now, the processes that goes on, aging is a huge umbrella, right? But behind that layer, you see the three processes are going on. One is if there's increased inflammation, increased oxidation, and decreased ability to detoxify
Mm,
all the toxins around you. When
mhm.
those So one is aging, right behind there's a layer of all those three processes that are going on: inflammation, oxidation, and toxification. And if our body is not able to detoxify all those toxins, we basically, our cells suffers. Our cells, there's a lot of damage at the cellular level, at the DNA level, and that actually accelerates the pace of aging. So, sugar is the main culprit that causes inflammation. So, try to stay away from sugary food, all those artificial sweetener, anything that you can't read and understand on the ingredient list of the label. Don't consume it. Anything more, if any of your product has more than five or six list of products on the ingredient, don't consume it, because you don't know what you're eating, right? So that's why I try to just get as much as natural stuff, whole foods as possible. Clean and organic is always preferable. And try to avoid dairy, because dairy nowadays is so contaminated with all those antibiotics and hormones that it kind of just mess you up. I have seen in my practice so many clients coming with eczema, skin problems, acne, weight gain, and all that kind of hormonal imbalance kind of issue, just because they're consuming dairy and a lot of inorganic meat, or you know all that food that can mess up with your hormones. So that's why just try to consume as organic as possible. And then obviously variety of food, and with different colors. The more variety and more colors you have, these colors are called phytonutrients. They give you all those micronutrients, they give you all the minerals, they give you all those vitamins that you consume from all those phytonutrients, the different colors of the food, so I mean, and I like to definitely include vitamin C rich food, because vitamin C rich food is full of antioxidants. They're antioxidant packed. So avoid sugar. That's how you avoid inflammation. Now, in order to decrease down the oxidation which is going on in your body, take more oxidant. Take the foods which are full of antioxidant, like vitamin C, citrus food. And then obviously you do some strategies and interventions to basically detoxify all these toxins which are which are which are unavoidable, which are around you all the time. It's in our environment, it's through our phones, through our radiation, EMF, in our skincare products, in our cosmetic, in our makeup products, in the water. We have so much heavy metal toxicity, cadmium, arsenic, lead, mercury, so much all around us. It's hard to avoid, but what's in your control is to basically whatever you can do. I mean, try to have the filters, water filter in your home, have the air filters around your surroundings, and try to stay away from that, all those toxins. Stay away from plastic bottles, and all that really helps. And that is the basic food category. I mean, I do not even know one single day when I wake up in the morning and I don't take fresh lime juice with some Celtic salt. And the reason for that is, one, I know some people say, oh, it's citrus, it's acidic, but actually lemon and lime is not acidic. It just is sour, but it's alkaline. So taking some things which are alkaline in nature, and then I add Celtic salt because that Celtic salt gives me all the minerals, a boost of mineral. Plus also Celtic salt has it has that ability to, it is hyperosmolar. So it has that ability to bring water, and and it increases the retention of water in the cell. So you're hydrating yourself, but then you're making sure that water is bioavailable in your cell. You're making sure that water, there is a retention of water in the cell for a longer time. And for that, Celtic water, the Celtic salt and Himalayan salt really helps. And all those stuff, turmeric tea, taking the lime water in the morning, all that stuff holistically, they do help. I mean, I know I am a conventional medicine physician, but I really believe in holistic approach as well, definitely.
When I first started my wellness journey, I had already been in the skincare industry for years, working on client skin and as an educator for multiple skincare brands. When I learned about how the toxins in our personal care and beauty products could have a negative impact on our health, I knew I needed to make a change. I was used to the result-driven products that I was working with, and I was not happy with the natural products on the market at that time. Although they were safer and cleaner, they did not meet my expectations for results. I created Simply Just Skincare to deliver the results my clients demanded from their products while using natural, toxin-free ingredients. You can check out my clients' results and reviews on my website, simplyjustskincare.com. In 30 days, my clients have reported more hydrated skin, less appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, and more of an overall glow. Our top sellers include our Repair Toner, our Hydrating Undo Serum with hyaluronic acid, and more. I am offering my listeners 20% off their first order with code PODCAST. Check it out in the link in my show notes to get glowing today. I have a question about the salt. And I know a lot of people online, you hear they recommend drinking a lot of water. And then I also heard like, well, don't drink too much water. And if you do, add salt, like you're saying. Does that just help with your electrolyte balance too? I tend to be someone who drinks a ton of water, but then I'm like, okay, wait, I need to also make sure I'm not drinking too much. And so I have been doing the salt in my water. But can you talk a little bit more about that just for anyone who's interested? And also lime. Is there a reason why you choose lime versus lemon? I love limes. I'm like, maybe I should do this instead of my lemon.
Yeah, it's a great question and a very practical question. I get to hear that a lot. So definitely, I mean, lime and lemon both are good. I like lime, and they both are alkaline. I just use them for, the alkaline nature of them, the lime or lemon, whatever is. I like to use lime because that's a little easy,
Mhm.
And definitely with the salt question, if you're drinking tons of water and you're not taking care of your mineral and your electrolytes, I think what you might be doing is basically hyper diluting it. So it's just too much of water and too much of hydration, but without any meaningful hydration. You got to drink water. At the same time, you got to be drinking it meaningfully. That means, that water does its purpose of hydration. And also at the same time, you're hydrating the cells, but inputting all the minerals and electrolytes in it. And that's why adding Celtic salt, lime, all those steps really help. Plus, I mean, when I'm talking about the minerals, I would say the most important mineral that you should be actually also fortifying with is the magnesium, which we will talk in micronutrients and when I'm talking about supplement, because I think that's the most important nutrient, that's the most important supplement that we should be taking. And the problem is people don't understand the concept and the need of it, and maybe they are not aware of it. But because it's just these micronutrients are always overlooked and understudied, that's why there's not too much awareness. But now I know with all the social media, we've been seeing all that information around us. But definitely be careful about the magnesium supplements and magnesium supply, especially when you are drinking a lot of water. And for you, I don't know how much active you are, and I'm sure that you do a lot of, if you are very active and insanely exercising, especially for people who are involved with a lot of physical activity and workouts, they should be very careful about, they need more magnesium than people who are just on a base level, because they lose magnesium in their sweat. Magnesium is always lost in the sweat. So if you are a person who regularly goes for sauna, or person who's regularly working out, you need to be more careful for magnesium supplements than other counterpart who are not as active as you. Because you lose a lot of magnesium in your sweat, so you got to be careful. And yeah, definitely be careful about your minerals and take Celtic salt, because I think that adds the meaningful value to hydration in your cell.
That's perfect. Okay, great. So we could either talk about more detoxification. You did mention sauna and different cold therapy. Do you want to talk about that next, or do you want to go to micronutrients?
Let's talk about micronutrients
Okay,
first, because
perfect.
I think micronutrients are very important, and they are the low hanging fruit, which is something that people, it's just not hard to grab them, it's just present in the form of pills. You have to just look for a good source and consume it. And then we will go towards the more luxury and leisure side of all those interventions like photomodulation and heat and cold therapy. So let's talk about micronutrients. Micronutrients, there are almost like 30 to 40 micronutrients. So first of all, people who do not know what are micronutrients, and many people who are even scientific people, doctors, they're like, what are you talking about? What are micronutrients? So micronutrients are these categories like amino acids, fatty acids, vitamins, and minerals. All those four categories form together micronutrients. And they are basically for for your general health, for your basic cellular functioning, they are the most important pillars, because without micronutrients, they are involved in literally every single functioning, like pumping the blood to the heart, in your respiration, in your detoxification, in your hormonal synthesis, in your neurotransmission, in your neurotransmitter synthesis like serotonin and BDNF that we just talked about, in your gut health, and also for your DNA repair, for your DNA synthesis, for all those basic, intrinsic, very, very foundational work of the cell. The most important things are micronutrients. So, first of all, let me just clear one thing for people who do not know. Our basic nutrition is divided into two basic categories. One is macronutrients, which everybody knows is protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And then these are the micronutrients that we are talking about. There is enough information about macronutrients all around us. We all know about it. Okay, we got to be careful about our protein consumption, and we should be restricting in our carbohydrates and fats. But nobody talks about micronutrients. But luckily, there have been so many clinical research, so much information that we can read and bring the awareness, that micronutrients are utmost important. Especially magnesium, just like I said, is almost involved in 300 enzymatic activities of your cells. Every single cell is functioning because there's a mineral called magnesium, which is helping constantly for DNA repair and for DNA synthesis. on a very general layman term, I wanted to say, we are living, right? We are living, but what is going on inside us, what we cannot see, is our cells are constantly dividing, they're replicating. And when our cells divide, our DNA is replicating too. There's damage to the DNA, there's a new DNA formation, there's a DNA repair going on in the cell. So all those functionings are going on in the cell. And so, our cells are replicating, new cells are forming, old cells are being repaired. Some of the old cells, which are zombie cells or useless cells, they are being getting out of the body, which is called the process of autophagy. So all that, the huge factory where all this functioning is going on, is basically all supported by enzymes. And all that enzymatic activities are basically supported by magnesium. Magnesium helps for the DNA repair and DNA synthesis. And if it doesn't do that, then what will happen? Our cells will be full of all the old DNA, all the erratic, dysfunctional DNA. And that's the cause for cancer. That causes all the cancer. Because when your cells become old, senile, erratic, dysfunctional, and totally crazy, that's where the origin of cancer comes from. So in order to avoid all that, magnesium is utmost important. And the basic dose of magnesium every day, we should be taking around 400 milligrams of magnesium every single day. That's the adult dose. And then if you're an athlete or you're actively involved in workouts and exercise and you do all the saunas and all that, you sweat a lot, you should be increasing your dose 100 milligram more for those particular kind of individuals. So that's how magnesium plays a major, major role. There's an enzyme called DNA polymerase. DNA polymerase is involved in DNA synthesis. That DNA polymerase enzyme is all supported by magnesium, actually. So the consumption of magnesium is utmost important. You know, why we need supplement. Some One of my clients said, okay, I'm taking my food, and why do I need to take supplements? The problem is the problem is with the soil and with the food nowadays, which used to be not so. This magnesium is actually present at the chlorophyll molecule in the green leafy plants. The chlorophyll is actually a molecule which makes the plant very, very dark green. So magnesium is present in all the green leafy plants, the green plants, the dark green plants. But the trend and the problem is that we are not basically consuming that much serving of all the green plants, either because of likings, because of our needs, or because of our trend and time. We are not consuming as much as green leafy plants we should have consumed, or what we used to consume many, many years ago. You know, so that's why it's always good to supplement with magnesium. Some people ask, okay, what's the best time to consume magnesium? I literally take it in the evening time around 6 p.m. Because it helps to calm you down mentally as well. It helps some people for inducing sleep, and it also helps to reduce anxiety. Basically, I take it for the reason of kind of just slowing me down and calming me down. So I take it in the evening time, not during morning. And the kind of magnesium that I take is basically magnesium glycinate, but I like to take magnesium glycinate mixed with magnesium citrate, because citrate helps to make the magnesium glycinate being more bioavailable to your cells. So that's the combination I love to take. So it's a utmost important micronutrients that you need to be careful about.
That's
This
amazing. I didn't know that about the glycinate and the citrate because I have both of them and I'm deficient in magnesium too, which I'm sure a lot of people are. But that is so great. I'm going to start doing that tonight. I'm like writing myself a note. Sorry, go
definitely.
ahead.
And magnesium, I mean, and yes, you're right. Literally 50% of US population, they are deficient in magnesium. 50%, irrespective of what. So when there's a huge number, we know that we fall in that category of being deficient or towards the low side of the levels. It's always good to supplement. And I tell my clients and my patients that, in order for any disease or any problem to be fixed or managed, it's always better to measure. Everything that gets measured get managed. So just measure yourself. Try to know your magnesium level before starting the supplement, and then after 3 months, when you've taken the supplement for 3 months, measure yourself again in order to know how it's improving your health and what your levels are.
Oh, I love that. That's a great tip. Is there anything else you want to add to the micronutrient part?
Definitely.
Because, yeah, please.
Yeah, because the other two major, there are many other which I take as supplements, and I know because of my hypothyroid, I just need to be extra careful. But other two, which are again very very important, are vitamin D and omega-3 fatty acids. If you're taking vitamin D, magnesium, and omega-3 fatty acids, almost 50% of correction you've already done to your health. So
Wow.
vitamin D is very very important for your immune health, for your brain health. It helps to reduce the inflammation. Again, just like we said, inflammation is number one cause of aging, right? So vitamin D helps to hunker down the inflammation. Inflammation in a general level is good for your body, but if there's a chronic inflammation going on in your body, it's just bad. it,
Mm.
it does nothing but it's the increased risk factor for any chronic metabolic disease. So vitamin D helps to reduce your inflammation, and nearly 70% of US population, we all are deficient in vitamin D. So what is the deficient level? So if you have a level less than 30, that's called deficient or insufficient level.
Mhm.
If you are somewhere between 40 to 50, you're still okay. But if you're somewhere more than 80, that's just perfect. So again, get yourself measured, see what your levels are, and start taking vitamin D. Almost 4,000 to 5,000 is clinically is on a higher side of safe levels. You can take 4,000. I literally basically prescribe almost 4,000 IU of vitamin D every single day to my patients. It's good for hormone synthesis. Especially women who are going through menopause and premenopause stage. They need to be very very careful about their vitamin D levels. So anything less than 30 is insufficient. So you got to work your way up to bring it to the level of 50 and above, and then that is what is called optimal level of vitamin D. Because again, humans, if you say why are these things so evident, that why are we being so careful now versus when my ancestors, my great grandma, she never knew and she never took all those supplements, because those people were always outside in sun. They were
Mm.
working, they were walking, they were farming, agriculture, always working manually, physically. So those people were always exposed to the sunlight. We all are not exposed to the sunlight, as we are more like inside functional machineries nowadays. So our skin doesn't get exposed to the sunlight, and vitamin D is always formed when you're in exposure to sun, and vitamin D is formed on your skin. But we cover ourselves with SPF, which I don't deny, because it's needed, because you got to protect yourself from bad radiations, bad harmful effects of the sun. But we are not in the sun, and that's the reason we are not forming, we are not basically synthesizing as much as vitamin D as is required for our bodies. And then what's the solution? Just take a pill every day. It's a low hanging fruit, which everybody can do. There's no barrier. We all can do that simply. So vitamin D really really helps to optimize your health. And the other one that I like to talk, which is such a major uh, need, is omega-3 fatty acids. And again, it's the major need to be aware of, because we all are not aware of omega-3 as a very utmost important micronutrient, because again, overlooked and understudied. Omega-3
Mm.
has always been understudied, but now there's a more information and knowledge about it. So omega-3 is present. Omega-3 fatty acids are basically needed for the cell membrane formation, for the hormonal synthesis, for hormones, or every single kind of hormone synthesis. So it's needed, and we do not have enough in our bodies, because it's mainly present in the marine source like seafood and fish. And we don't consume that much marine source. Even if we do consume, it's not optimal amount. We just consume like one or two times in a week seafood and fish. And then some people just like to avoid the marine source because they think that it is high in mercury and we don't want the mercury toxicity. And I agree with them. And that's why the trend has been that, go low on fish. But I will advise people who have that concept, I'll say, please consume the marine source, but the small fish like sardine and salmon. They are rich in omega 3 fatty acid. At the same time, they are rich in protein and they don't have as much as bad levels of mercury as compared to other bad fish like swordfish, which is a huge big fish, or halibut, which has huge amount of mercury. So try to avoid those kind of fish, but try to consume first your omega-3 from the marine source, because the kind of omega that you consume from marine source of food is called EPA and DHA. So EPA is a kind of fatty acid, DHA is another kind of fatty acid. EPA is good for your heart health and DHA is good for your brain health. And people who are vegan or vegetarian, they also get their omega 3 fatty acids, but that kind is called ALA, but that's not as effective as this EP and DHA is. So try to consume your marine source of food. Food first is the first approach, and then whatever your deficiency is, try to consume it through the pill, because that you can do because it's easily available. Make sure when you're consuming your omega 3, you're easily consuming around 1.5 to 2 grams every day. That's what you need and you require. And check for the sources, that your sources are clean. Whatever brand or sources you like to consume, but just make sure that you're reading about it, that how the sources are, how do they clean their whole process of taking the mercury out of those kind of supplements. I like, when I do it for myself, I like to prescribe myself the one that is FDA approved. So that's more like a prescription strength. But I know for other people, if people are not going through the prescription route and they're going through the supplementation route, always be careful about, knowing the source, that it's a clean source. And if they are careful about their processing of cleaning the mercury out of the supplement. Also, I wanted to mention again, just like I said, before taking any supplement, measure yourself, because especially in US, we there's something called omega 3 index. That's how you measure omega 3 levels in your body, and it should be optimally around 8. But we all, in US, we are all around 4,
Hmm.
5. So try to bring it towards 8. And that's when I start with my clients, I start with 2 grams of omega 3. And then slowly, when I know that they're tighter or their level is improving, I cut it down back to 1 gram, because that's the optimal that they will require later. And like in Japan, when they studied, the omega 3 index is easily around 10 to 12%, and which is huge, and which is really so good because they do consume a lot of marine food, fish and seafood. But in US, it's little slightly on a lower side, so it's better to consume the tablet or the pills. Since we were talking about omega 3, I wanted to
Yeah.
mention the importance of it by comparing two studies, which I just recently saw that data, and I like to speak about it if you're okay with it,
Yeah.
so people know how important it is. You know, there are literally 82,000 deaths in US which are because of the lack of omega 3, right?
Wow.
And 84,000 deaths in US are because of consuming trans fat. And we all know trans fat is bad for us, extremely bad for us. So you see, if we are lacking or deficient in omega 3, that's as bad as basically consuming trans fat in our diet. So, because if you compare the number of deaths in that case versus this case, they're pretty equal. So, not taking omega 3 in the optimal level is as bad as consuming the trans fat in your diet. So, 82,000 deaths because of not having omega 3 in your diet, and 84,000 deaths because of consuming the trans fat. So, that's why, I mean, when I saw this data, it was kind of mind boggling. And I was like, literally, okay, this is huge. So omega 3 is very, very important for your health and for reducing the inflammation in your body and for hormone synthesis and for basically any cell membrane. Their basic backbone structure is fatty acids, so you need to provide that fatty acids to every single cell for their cell functioning and for their cell integrity, and that's why you need omega-3 fatty acids in your diet as well as in the form of supplementation.
This is amazing. I love all of this because this is like something that tangible that we can do. And I love what you said. When you get it measured, you can get it managed. That's so important. So I think we have time for another pillar for our aging process. So whatever you'd like to discuss.
I like to touch on sleep, definitely,
Yes.
because when I talk about the lifestyle correction, the very first pillar is exercise, and then your food, which also includes what you eat, plus also the supplementation. And then the third pillar is sleep. Sleep is non negotiable, it's utmost important. It's good for your overall health, it is good for your longevity, it helps to reduce all cause mortality, and also it helps to increase your cognition. Sleep for 7 to 8 hours every single night is really needed for your body to be functioning optimally. There has been a study that shows some data that shed some data that people who sleep for 4 to 5 hours per night versus people who sleep for 7 to 8 hours. So people who are 4 to 5 hours sleeper, the rate of dementia is almost double for them as compared to the people who sleep for 7 to 8 hours. It's a
Wow.
huge, I mean, it sheds so much light on the importance of sleep as a pillar of your lifestyle correction. So sleep for 7 to 8 hours every single night is so important. And I'll tell you why, because and the main indicator how you measure it, the very first question I ask like, are you sleeping good? So how you detect the sleep hygiene, that you have a good hygiene or a bad poor hygiene. If you're sleeping around 4 to 5 hours per night and your latency period is 30 minutes, latency period means that you're taking 30 minutes in order to be initiating the sleep, that you're on the bed, tossing, turning over, and you're taking 30 minutes. That's called latency period. So if your latency period is 30 minutes or more, and you're having to take daytime naps. So if you are in the category of those three, that sleeping around 4 to 5 hours, 30 minutes latency period, and your next day napping 1 or 2 times in a day, that means you have a poor sleep hygiene. Some people don't even know how their sleep was previous night. They say, okay, we were in the bed for 8 hours, but who knows when you were on the bed, did you have a good quality sleep? By good quality sleep, I mean try to know your sleep, how your sleep score was previous night by looking at some gadgets like, Aura Ring is what I try to always navigate through. Some people have Whoop and other kind of gadgets that they can see their sleep score. I like Aura Ring because Aura Ring does measure your deep sleep, your REM sleep, your light sleep, and also it tells you about your HRV, heart rate variability. So that's why I love Aura Ring. But definitely see how your sleep score was in order to basically take measures in order to make those corrections, you know for the rest of your life. So that's how, because when you are sleeping and during the deep sleep, so we have different stages of sleep. We have REM and non-REM. So REM is all about dreaming. Non-REM is basically a combination of light sleep and deep sleep. So deep sleep is so important because deep sleep is when basically your CSF, when your brain cells are functioning hard, they're wiring and firing together, and they get those beta amyloids protein out of your CSF. And these beta amyloid proteins are basically the culprit for causing dementia. All those Alzheimer's and dementia is because there's a collection of beta amyloid protein in the CSF, the cerebrospinal fluid.
Mhm.
And deep sleep does that function. During the deep sleep, there's a lymphatic system in the brain which is called glymphatic system. And the lymphatic system is basically functioning in the deep sleep duration. And that actually detoxify all those beta amyloids out of the CSF. And that's why I say people who suffer from lack of sleep, they don't have enough deep sleep, they are more prone for having dementia, 2 times more prone for having the risk factor for dementia than their counterparts who have a better sleep hygiene and who are sleeping for 7 to 8 hours. because deep sleep is doing all that function of basically clearing out all your toxins. And these toxins are beta amyloid out of your CSF. So it's very, very important. And then at
Yeah.
the same time, you also need to be careful about your REM sleep. REM sleep is all about dreaming. So what REM sleep does I mean, I can talk complicated science about it, but on a simpler terms, basic concept is that REM converts your short time memory to your long time memory. During the stage of REM, you basically restore your memory. Whatever happened today, in order for you to retain that memory 3 years later, the short term had to be converted to the long term memory, and that's what is happening during the time of REM sleep. So that's how REM is so important. So that's why we like to give whole 7 to 8 hours of sleep, because you want your sleep cycles to go through REM, to go through the light sleep and the deep sleep, and then light sleep and REM. There's a huge that graph that works along the way. So that's why sleep is very, very important. And people like, okay, I don't get sleep. What do I do? And I tell them utmost important. First of all, never take any sleep supplements, sleep medications, because just all those kind of chemicals and all those supplements, even though I'm a doctor, but I'm never in the favor of sleep medication, because they increases the neuroplasticity, and they increases the risk of all those cancers and bad outcomes. So don't take sleep related medications, but try to manage it holistically by just finishing your food at least 2 to 3 hours before your sleep time, managing your temperature around you. When you're ready to sleep, basically, uh, your temperature should be cold enough, around 65 to 68 is preferably that's required, so that you're basically synchronizing with the temperature that is regulated during the sleep. So it's all called synchronization. And then stay away from bright light and all that kind of factors, because bright light basically activates your eyes and your cornea to make your mind think that it's a daytime. So stay away from your gadgets, iPad, iPhones, and your all these laptops and everything. But if you have to sit and do something, I like to use my blue light blocking glasses. That really helps. So all those little things here and there, correction is always better way to optimize.
I love that. Your tips are so amazing. When people say I'm not sleeping, but then you ask them like, are you looking at your phone before bed? Or I'm going to make sure my husband listens to this once in the summer. I'm going to say, okay, we need to turn the AC way down at night
Yes.
because it has to be a certain temperature for that good quality sleep. But you are so incredible. I have just loved all of your information, and you've given us so many like practical takeaways too, on top of all this research that you're sharing with us, and it's incredible. So I would love if you could share a little bit about your new book and where everyone can find you, and I'll make sure that I link everything for my listeners because they're going to want to learn more from you. So let us know.
So I am working on this book, and it'll be hopefully coming in 2-3 more months. The book is going to be Live and Age Biooptimally. I'm going to be including every single tip and strategies to basically correct and biooptimize your health so you can live to your full potential. My website is liveagewell.net, livagewell.net. And my Instagram, where you can find me, is dr_money, MANI .KUKREJA. So where I am constantly present there, I'm there regularly, and I throw in as much as education and awareness as I can.
I will make sure to announce when the book goes live, and I can't wait to get my copy. So thank you for your time today and all of your information. You are so wonderful.
It was a pleasure to be here and discussing all the insights with you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.